So the first memory that I have of being inspired by music is when I was about 4 or 5 years old. New house, and my mom put on the Beach Boys movie. Love the Beach Boys. Ba 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 baran. Ba 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 baran. But anyway, I remember being inspired by the drummer. I would go get the pots and pans out of the cupboard, start playing around on drums, acting like I could. After that, it's probably around fourth grade. The first band that I got into was Relient K. And I just remember that first album, some of those tracks like 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐭𝐮𝐫𝐞𝐬 Dance was like, in my mind, the pinnacle of art, of rock and roll. It's like, it can't get better than this. Getting into middle school, Yellow Card dropped. Story of the Year dropped. They're two of my biggest inspirations. I still listen to those bands today. Ocean Avenue and Page Avenue. And I was like super adverse to scream vocals. Story of the Year had like just enough for it to be cool for me, but it was mostly clean. So I could still understand the lyrics, still, bob along to the melody and everything. And in seventh grade, started to hit puberty, singing at church and everything, and got my mic cut. And I remember my mom, my dad, and my aunt coming up to me and be like, what happened to your voice? Like, we couldn't even hear you. And I just got discouraged. It was like, oh, wow, like, I think they cut my mic off. And again, like, couldn't match pitch, couldn't hear myself, and everybody else was great. My best friend BJ was a really good singer, still is a good singer today. But
puberty just kind of hit you, and you had that pitch, you had that sensation to be able to hear yourself singing, and then it just...
Yeah, like I remember, in music class in sixth grade, like I was in the choir, and, my sister was like, my older sister, 2 years older than me, so we were in school at the same time. She was like the star of the family. She got every single lead in the school musicals, county choir, state choir. She's a Connie Francis impersonator. She could have really done something in music, like if she wanted to. But like I said, she was the star of the family. So like nobody was really looking at young Matthews for any of that talent. But I wanted to play rock and roll. And got inspired in seventh grade, by those bands to pick up guitar. Started taking some lessons here and there. Learned some power chords. And my best friend BJ at the time, got inspired by me. He picked up a guitar. And we would just jam together. And, we would jam. We had a youth pastor that, taught us how to play together. Not overplaying, but, what is a lead guitar doing? What is a rhythm guitar doing? How to play along the drums. And, yeah. So, like I said, I was at that point pretty adverse to singing and also scream vocals. Didn't like it. And, my friend BJ was, like, really into heavy metal at the time, like, because his cousin was. And that's all he listened to. And I was like, I just can't get into it. Like, it's not, I can't hear the words. I can't hear the lyrics. Like, what am I listening to? Like, this garbled mess. But in ninth grade, I was at Creation Festival. Same group, church group, my youth pastor, my best friend. And we were in the little music the music store that they had there, and they were really into Under Oath. It's the hoodie that I'm wearing right now. And their album, their debut album, They're Only Chasing Safety, was sitting on the shelf, and I was like, guys, is it worth it? And they were like, dude, it's worth it. All right, cool. So I bought it, popped it in my CD player, and I probably listened to that album every single day for the next 2 years.
And you're in ninth grade right now?
In ninth grade, going into high school. Yeah. So, like I said, I couldn't sing, and I really wanted to. I wanted to be part of the band. I wanted to write lyrics. however bad they were at the time. But yeah, I just wanted to be a bigger part of the band, right? But I think there's a value in knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're not good at. And I knew that I wasn't good at it at the time. But I was like, look, like if I can't sing, I want to do scream vocals. Like, I can figure it out. I'll try to figure it out. Even my best friend was like, no, dude, it's something that you're born with, right? Put my nose to the grindstone and was just trying. At a certain point, I got it figured out. And so we had a band called All My Friends and Foes. We wrote and recorded our first album, by the time I was in 11th grade. I actually opened up for Hawthorne Heights. I don't know if you remember those guys. Doesn't matter. Irrelevant now. But no, they were pretty big at the time. And that was like probably the peak of my career at this point. But band things happened. Guys were going away to college. My lead singer was in the military, so he went to Iraq, and we split from there. And kind of coming to where I am now in my music, making what I'm making now is emo rap, alternative hip hop, with like I call it just 2000s alternative melodies over drill beats with some scream vocals mixed in. So yeah, it's been a cool project to just kind of experiment with, like finding my sound, something really cool. But I got into another band, still couldn't sing, didn't want to sing. And I mentioned to you earlier, like I tried to lead worship at my youth group once, and like my two best friends came up to me like after rehearsal, and they were like, "Bro, like we got to talk to you." I'm like, "What's up?" They're like, "You shouldn't do this." And I'm like, damn, it was crushing. It was crushing because that was like, I had been trying to do it for a while. It wasn't working out. And I remember singing in the car with my friend, like just hoping, or like with my mom and my dad, like hoping that someone would tell me that it sounded good. And no one ever did. And I just grew up thinking that I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't sing. I didn't have a good voice. But like I said, I leaned into screaming, leaned into trying something that I could be good at. And, went away to college for a little bit, came back home, still in school, but linked up with another band that I was in for a little bit, Red Carpet Hit List, and we didn't have a vocalist. And I was playing guitar at the time, and, my buddy Pete was playing guitar, buddy Dan was on the drums. And I was like, look, guys, like, let me try. Just let me try. So I did, and it was terrible. And I remember recording our first song in the studio, and I had to punch every single line in because I still couldn't carry a melody. But the engineer was great, and thank God for auto-tune, bro. Like, thank God for auto-tune because we were able to figure it out. We were able to get a track out, and it sounded decent. But after that, I linked up with another engineer. He introduced me to a vocal coach, and she's actually a vocal pathologist. So she was really familiar with like not just like the science of singing, but the science of like vocal cords, and even mouth positioning, like how to project and everything like that. So I took one vocal lesson with her, and I swear it was like putting a key inside of a lock. And I remember, doing like rehearsing one of my songs with her, and she was like, you have a really good voice, right? And I was like, no, I don't. She was like, why do you think that? I'm like, I don't know. Like I've been told my whole life, like I can't sing. I've been told my whole life, like I shouldn't do this, that I'm not good at this. And like my sister was the star, like I said. And she was like, well, like, I think you need to do this. Like, I think, like, you have some good warm-ups right now. Like, you have some good techniques. So, like, just keep on working at it. So I went to her a couple more times, probably 2 or 3 more times. And, like, through rehearsing and recording with my band, and just, like, started writing more lyrics, starting getting better at, like, writing hooks finding the melody, you know, through the guitar tracks and everything. And you know, we recorded 3 songs together, and you know how it is, dude. I actually kind of funny that, you know, I'm doing solo stuff right now, because I could not for the life of me get these guys to practice. Like, not for the life of me. And like that honestly is what kind of took me out of bands. It was like, look, like, if I can do it by myself, I can control everything, and you know, I don't have to wait around for people to be available. Like, I don't need to wait around for people to be free.
It's like there's always that one drummer who's just never shows up to practice, or the one bassist. But for you, it was like everyone didn't show up to practice.
Well, you know, people would show up, but it was like, you know, we're practicing, like we're playing out here and there, but it didn't really seem like anyone was taking it as seriously as I was. Like, I was the one that was putting money up for recording and like trying to get the guys to pay me back and everything. And yeah, so I took a break from that for a while, and you know, I got into hip hop probably the end of high school. So I know I'm jumping back and forth a little bit right now. And I remember, I mean, me and my friends, we would just like smoke weed and freestyle. And it was terrible. Like, it was bad. But I loved beats. And what I really loved about hip hop was just like the constant flow of ideas and the wordplay of it all. So, you know, fast forward to probably 2019, I had just come back from Panama. I was down there doing some missions work, and I was trying to produce, and I was trying to teach myself how to engineer. But again, dude, like, it's if you don't have like a baseline knowledge, or like someone to show that to you, like, it can be hard. Like, it can be very daunting. So I was trying to produce, like trying to make beats, and like, you know, got some beats out, like some that were kind of cool, but you know, nothing that I was able to do anything with. I was really into like the Russ model of like self-produced, self-mixed. So, are you familiar with Russ? Mm-mm. He's a very controversial figure in hip hop, but one thing that people can't take away from him is like his early career. His albums went platinum, like multi-platinum, self-produced, produced all of his own beats, self-engineered, mixed everything, self-mastered, self-distributed. Like, one of the only artists to be able to do that. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I want to do that. So I tried to put like a lot of time into producing and like learning that skill and that art form. At a certain point, I was just like, dude, you need to just do what you're good at. And for me, at the time, like I said, you know, just working with those bands and hearing the melodies, trying to find the hooks and find the verses. And like, there's an expression that I use today. It's like, I kind of let songs write themselves. And when I wrote my first song, like I first rapped, you know, I guess, and it wasn't like the emo rap style that I'm doing right now, or like, you know, any of the alternative influences. It was just hip hop. I wanted to rap. At a certain point, I made one song, and I was writing this song for like a year, and I just was walking on the beach in California and just ripped this vocal line, and it was like alternative vocals like that I used to listen to from my childhood. Like, you know, reminds me of like Story of the Year, or like an Aaron Gillespie from Under Oath, or, you know, even Ryan Key from Yellow Card. And I was like, oh, shit, like, this is dope. And yeah, basically from there, like, once I wrote that song and like found my sound, that's kind of just like what I've been leaning into ever since then. You know, the scream vocals on top of the alternative melodies on top of like trap and drill beats. So that's where we're at. Yeah.
Tell me what inspired that tenacity, that for consistency.
Dude, I think just being told that I couldn't do it. like being told by my friends that I couldn't do it, like nobody really responding to me when I was singing. Like I was the youngest in my family, and I was a really quiet kid growing up, and I still am. In large group settings, I'm very introverted, very quiet. You know, I've managed to find my voice and my personality in like smaller groups, but I wanted to be heard, I think, and you know, I think that translated into music. Like I was writing lyrics before I could sing. But yeah, it was that idea of just being told like, you can't do this. You shouldn't do this. I'm like, okay.
How did that make you feel?
In a way, defeated, but in another way, like challenged. And just trying to figure out a way to make it work.
So Jared, you provided me with 5 core values that
Yeah.
kind of, make you tick, that make you engage with the world in a
Sure.
certain way. The first one that's jumping out to me is the one you have here. That's consistency. I'm listening to your story as a musician and kind of the hurdles, because the story you're telling is hurdles coming and you just crushing them, and just I'm going to forge my own path as a musician. Tell me what consistency means to you.
Yeah, so I'll start with consistency as an artist. There was, look, when I first started writing for this project, Matthews, I would, go on YouTube, try to find beats that I liked. And again, it was just trying to find something that sounded good to me. And I would go to a coffee shop, and I would sit there and I would play the beat over and over and over and over again until I got something out. And like I said, I was just rapping at the time. It was just bars, just wordplay, and trying to find good rhymes, trying to find good flows, things that sounded good to me. And that was probably for like a year I did that. So just sitting down with the music and just listening to it over and over and over again and just seeing what I could come up with. So consistency for me as an artist is just doing the thing. Like, it's just making the music. Even if it comes out bad, even if it comes out like not what you thought it was going to be, it's making the art that deserves to get made. And just doing that and repeating it over and over again. So right now I have 20 songs out. We're at like probably 4 songs a year at this point. We had a little bit of a pandemic hiccup in there, so I give myself some grace. But consistency as an artist is basically just showing up. It's showing up, it's putting the time in, it's putting the work in, it's getting your ideas out on paper, and finding like a trust in yourself as well, that like what you're making is good and people do want to hear it, and like you do have a message to tell. But consistency for me, like, it goes past just music. It goes the consistency in relationships, like showing up for people and being there, like being a good friend. It's always it's really fun for me to like go back to my first track that I've made and then like the last 10 that I've recorded, because I'm like seeing this difference and the growth and like and the consistency that I exercised was the thing that allowed me to find my sound. And if there's one thing that people have told me about my music, it's that there's nothing that sounds like this. Just the melding of different sounds, metalcore, alternative rock, pop punk elements, hip hop, drill and trap. Even throwing some gospel in there now. So just trying to like have fun with it, but also, like I said, being consistent and just making the art that deserves to get made. My favorite tracks that I've recorded are always the ones that I've hated at first. being in the studio with my engineer Cal and like recording a hook that I wrote, hearing it back on the beat and being like, you know what, man, I'm actually not feeling this. Like, let's go on to the next song. And he's like, no, like, we have to finish this. He's like, why? What's wrong? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just not feeling it. He's like, dude, like, this is a good song. Like, we have to finish this. One of those songs for me is my song Comatose. It just so happens that the beat was like slightly out of tune. And like, I think that's the value of like working with a good engineer. And again, consistency. An engineer that doesn't do this professionally or kind of treats it as a part-time job wouldn't have been able to hear that the beat was slightly out of tune. And if I was working with any other producer or any other engineer, that song would not have gotten made. So that's, you know, consistency, core value of mine. It's something that I look in people that I work with, right? If I even get a whiff of inconsistency or, you know, not taking your art seriously, it's a wrap for me. Like, we might get in the studio once, but you get one chance with me. You get one chance, and if there's, you know, if the vibe's off or if you don't show up to the studio session, whatever it is, like, we're done. And it's no offense. It's just I have a goal in mind. The people that are around me have, you know, and that support me have a goal in mind. So I just don't have time for people that aren't displaying that same level of dedication and consistency that we're talking about. So
I love it. I think a lot of what I like to talk about with people is discovering what your core values and becoming really aligned with them help you identify the core values in other people. And when you can see if your core values and their core values align, you know, that's when you know if you're going to be able to create, you know, something really fresh together.
Yeah. That's how the sauce is made.
Yeah.
For sure.
So another one of your core values you've shared with me is humility. So
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what that means to you. If you know, does that correlate to bringing something new that's never been done that might not sound great at first?
Sure.
Tell me the thoughts.
So humility in my journey, and you know, we're going back to my story a little bit here, is understanding what you're good at and what you're not good at. And that actually goes into another one of my core values, but they're closely linked, but you know, we'll save that one. So it goes into I didn't force anything. Nothing was forced. If anything felt forced, then it wasn't going to get made. Unless, like I said, the consistency of the other people around me just to go and make the art, again, the art that deserves to get made, and having the humility to say, okay, I'll try it, right? I'm going to keep on trying it. I don't hear it right now, but my feelings as the artist actually don't matter because the people that I trust around me are telling me to do this. And it's funny, right? I used to have people that would tell me not to do it, and I didn't. That's humility. Like I said, I'm not trying to force myself to sing in this band where I couldn't really sing. I went and got vocal lessons. I went and figured out that I could do this. The humility to be in the booth, to not feel good about it, but still put it down. And not say to the engineer, this is my session. I'm the artist. I'm going to make the music that I want to make. But having the humility to say, like, all right, I'm not sure that I see it right now. Let's see what comes out. You know, let's take this 2-hour time. You know, let's take this three hours to just dig in, get the best vocal takes we can, and just see what happens. And those songs, I swear to you, are my favorite songs today. Like, every single song that I walked into the booth and was like, dude, I don't know about this. I'm not sure. And again, just having a good engineer there, a consistent engineer that cares about the art that's being created, saying, you should do this. So we're going from humility to not make art or to not do the thing, to the humility that you need to be able to make the things that you might not be sure about at first.
That's powerful. It's almost like that word, I don't know, it is so tightly aligned to humility for me. It's like a willingness to understand that, yeah, I might not be able to do that thing I thought I was able to, but I might be capable of this thing I didn't think I was capable of either.
Yeah.
So I just love it. I would like to hear a little bit more. Another one of your core values you gave to us today was confidence. So tell me, because humility and confidence, people can be overconfident, which is the opposite of humility. They're so two sides of a different coin. Mm-hmm. Tell me about what confidence means to you.
I don't think that humility and confidence are opposite. I think humility and cockiness are opposite. And yeah, too much confidence in yourself can come off as cockiness. But in the same way that you need humility to be able to hear, or when you can't hear what the end product is going to be, or that when you don't really believe in it, this is the same. I think it's two sides of the same coin. One side is humility, where you're saying to yourself, you know what, I don't see the vision right now, but I'm going to trust the people around me. And, you know, I don't feel like I'm performing the best right now, but the people around me, the people that I have placed, that I trust, that do have similar values, are telling me to do this. I'm going to be humble right now, and I'm going to make the art. Confidence, on the other hand, for me, is the ability to, again, know what you're good at. Know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. So confidence for me was in writing. It was in lyrics. And now it's in my voice. It's in melodies. It's in hooks. Not really verses. Right? And, you know, I could talk about a little side project I'm working on a little bit later that, you know, kind of relates to that. But the confidence that I have in myself at this point in the music that I'm writing has served me pretty greatly in like different studio sessions, where I'm able to help other artists now with their music, where I'll hear something back. You know, a good friend of mine, Alyssa, Rosie Banks is her artist name. You know, she recently asked me to help with her project, and you know, even in my creators camp, I remember walking into one of the rooms and she was making a song, and I'm like, this is a really good song. Do me a favor, talking to the engineer, and I'm like, can you check the auto-tune key for me? Sure enough, it was a flat instead of a sharp.
We're good.
Yep. Sure enough, the auto key, the auto-tune was just off a little bit, and that was throwing off the vocal for me. I was hearing something. Now, humility might say, well, it's not your song. Don't say anything. Let the artist do it. Sure. Confidence says, something doesn't sound right now. And this is a good song. And it's art that deserves to be made. But it's art that deserves to be made, and it deserves to be great. So, sure enough, you check the auto-tune, click, click, boom, back in key. I'm like, all right, cool, let's listen through it. Listening through, I'm like, this is a great song. It doesn't have a hook. Or it has a hook, you just need to repeat it. So, and again, the confidence for me comes in, you know, working on my own stuff. And like you were saying earlier, jumping and crushing these hurdles of people that said that I couldn't do something, to where I am now, and having the confidence to hear melodies, to hear the hooks, you know, hear the different parts of the song that may need to be there or may not need to be there. So, yeah, sometimes it's just like, we need hi-hats, or sometimes it's just like, this BPM needs to be a little bit faster or a little bit slower. So, yeah, that's the kind of confidence that I'm taking into the studio now, where it's like, and even when I'm writing my songs, through like beat selection, for example, I would say like the last 5 songs that I have written are songs that have just completely written themselves, where I don't even feel like I'm writing. It just feels like I'm the vessel. And, people disagree about, what the source is, whether that's the muse or whether that's your inner creative, whether that's God, right? But when I'm making music now, I don't even think about the words. It's like the hooks and the lines, they come out as full statements anymore. So, yeah, I think there's something to be said for just like shutting off your brain or getting into that flow state, whatever you want to call it. There's a Jeff Tweedy, Wilco, amazing lyricist. He wrote a book called How to Write One Song, and he calls it diving deep. Like there's a pool, and there's a little pearl at the bottom of the pool. And you can see the pearl. It looks like it's just under the surface. Like you could almost just reach in the water and grab it. But it's not. It's refracted against the water, and it's a lot deeper than you think it is. So he talks about diving deep and like trying to dive deep down as you possibly can to touch the pearl. And it's the same thing with, Rick Rubin's creative act. Like your inner creative, just shutting off the thoughts, shutting off the doubts, shutting off the people that told you that you couldn't do something, and just letting the art be made.
I feel like I'm doing that right now.
Yeah.
With this project.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
It's huge. I feel like you're getting into that flow state. It requires the confidence to jump in, the humility to let the tides come and go as they do, and a consistency to just let that flow maintain that pattern that you can just isolate, and you just
float in it.
You just float in it.
You float. And it's the humility and the confidence to know what you're good and bad at. I am a great engineer. I hate engineering. I know I'm a great writer. I know I have great melodies. I know I have great hooks. My verses are okay. But like when I walk into the studio, when I walk into these settings, I know what I'm bringing to the table. Whether it's that ear, that confidence in my ear to just hear someone else's song and tell them what it needs and leave it up to them, the humility to let it go, but the confidence to speak it and just say it. Hey, like this song deserves this. What do you think? And letting the artist make the decision, and that comes into their confidence and their humility to be able to let go of the project and say, you know what? I actually had this idea for the song, but what you said is actually a lot better. Collaboration.
Sounds like good. I was just about to say collaboration.
Yeah.
All right, well, why don't we pivot for a little minute here? So another one of the core values you gave to me was honesty. And I'm curious, what does honesty mean to you? What does honesty bring into your life as just a person, and what does it bring into the studio?
Yeah. I used to be a liar. For things that I was uncomfortable with, or, even, ways that I may have wronged my parents, for example. Used to smoke a lot of weed. Lied for 5 years about it. And I remember the first time that I was just honest about my cannabis use. And the weight that came off of my shoulders afterwards, and was like, you know what? This is so much better. Like, it's so much better. And like, yeah, like people are upset with me. They disagree with what I'm doing, but like, it's just better to be honest. I think that's important, for people, because we live in such a, a surface level society where people aren't really diving deep with each other anymore. And, Philadelphia is a very honest city. I, lived in California a little bit and experiencing like the difference between like what is like raw honesty from like a Philadelphian actually is like more of an act of love, or it can be. And this is a cool interview, man, because it all intersects, like it all interrelates. Like, I'm so happy, dude. I'm so thankful that I had people that were honest with me about my voice. I'm so happy that I had friends that told me not to sing. Like, I'm so happy that I got my mic turned off in 7th grade, because that was ultimately the thing that spurred me to keep on going. And if I never had that, I probably just would have kept on being bad. So yeah, I think honesty in interpersonal relationships, like, dude, whatever level that is, like, I think sometimes you have to hurt some feelings, and especially in art, dude. I actually don't think everybody should make music. I actually don't think everybody should make art. Some people aren't artists, but I don't think that means that you shouldn't try. I think. But again, it comes down to being honest with yourself. Like, how much do you want something? How much work are you willing to put in for the thing? Now, honesty, when it comes into the studio setting, for me, it's just about being open. When my engineer tries to do something that I don't like, it's just that. Nah, do this. That's it. No ego. No ego involved. And it's the same on the other side. I would absolutely hate to be in a studio session with an engineer that is not honest and doesn't really care about the art that's getting created. Because it comes back to the confidence part, comes back to the humility part. Do you have confidence to be honest? Do you have the humility to be honest?
It's almost like that iterative design philosophy we were talking about earlier, where like you're just getting it out there onto the paper and you're sticking with that beat for like a year or whatever. And if you're not honest, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. Like, you need to approach it with a real clear truth mindset to kind of improve it every time.
Or the art gets made that could have been better. Or, art gets made that shouldn't have been made. And I say that with my tongue in my cheek, because on one hand I'm saying, no, just get it out. On the other hand, I'm saying you have to have the ability to hear it and say, can this be better? Or is it the song that it's supposed to be? Right.
I love how you approach songs with the sensation of deserving to be made.
Yeah.
Like the song deserves to be the best it can be, and it needs to be approached with, these core values we're talking about.
Right.
So we've talked a lot today, Jared, about how you interact with the world and how you create your art. I'd like to just take a little bit of time to ask why. And is there a core value that you connect with that kind of inspires you to approach the world in this way?
Yes. So I guess my number one core value right now, and it has been in my life and it hasn't been in my life, but right now it's faith. Particularly faith in Jesus Christ. And there's a lot of faith inspiration in my music. I don't write love songs to Jesus. Yeah, we're talking about honesty, humility, confidence, and consistency. And I think those things all kind of relate back to my faith and how I approach my music. Very faith-based, but like I said, I don't write love songs to Jesus. I tell people all the time, like, if I had to compare my music to books of the Bible, they would be more akin to like Ecclesiastes and Lamentations, or some of the darker Psalms. Some of the parts of that book that don't really seem hopeful, but that you can still draw meaning from. I have a project that I'm working on right now. It's called The Death of Matthews. And it's not that I'm going to stop making music, but it's kind of exploring the idea of spiritual death and searching for a light in the darkness, not being able to find it, wanting peace, but it being a thing that eludes you, and, getting to a place of even repentance, but feeling better off in the wasteland. So, yeah, I mean, faith has been it's been a journey.
Let's explore that a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
for sure.
So, in a music genre that's so dominated with hope and uplifting feelings and joy, I guess, you're pursuing this different tone, but it's still inspired heavily by what you have faith in.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit more. How is what I'm saying here making you feel? What is this drawing you to think about?
It draws me to people that are searching for purpose, for a greater purpose in life. Some people think they have it figured out, and that's fine. I've been having some really interesting conversations lately, people that have, come across my path, and, people that have heard my music and like responded in certain ways to, even the newer music that I'm making. And these are the songs that have written themselves. The ones that I'm not thinking about, the ones that I'm plugging into the higher power, the muse, the inner creative, whatever you want to call it. And honestly, having the faith in God that I am using a gift that I've been given. I'm using a gift that I prayed for in my voice, something that I would never thought I was capable of, but now that I'm doing consistently, and dare I say, pretty good. And just having the faith in what I'm making and the message that is coming out of it, if that makes sense.
It all ties together. You have faith in a higher power.
Absolutely.
And you have faith you believe in what you do.
Yeah. I have a lot of faith in my art, man. I have a lot of faith in my sound. Like, I believe in this project. And it's one of those things where, I mean, you can't be a musician without being at least a little bit crazy. Because, I'm 5 years in, we'll take a year off for the pandemic, but, I'm not anywhere near where I want to be for my career in music, We're working on it. The marketing is definitely, it's a trick, something you have to figure out. But I love every single second of it. And it's like one of those things where there's part of me that would love to play to large crowds. And then there's another part of me that just wouldn't mind being like an underground local legend that never really had a core fan base, but just has like an amazing body of work that almost no one has ever heard. And it probably sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but it comes down to that love for the labor, like that love for the art, the faith that I have in what I'm doing, the faith in, the gifts that I feel like I've prayed for and that I've received and that I get to use. The humility to say, I don't really care if this ever reaches a wider audience because I'm doing what I know I'm supposed to do. The confidence to be able to say, this is really good and people deserve to hear it. the consistency to keep on making the art that deserves to be made. I will record a song. There's a... Man, I write some dark fucking lyrics. Like, I write some dark shit, man, and it's funny to me because, you know, when I'm talking about faith, a lot of people, you know, expect like a faith-based artist to be writing more about light and love and hope. My music seems hopeless. Like, my music seems like, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, that's who I write for. Dude, if you're a hopeful person, you're a loving person, you have this part of life figured out, Matthews isn't really for you. I'm writing for the people that are hopeless like I was for a long time in my 20s. You know, some interpersonal stories there that, you know, brought me down to a low level. I have this one line in my song, Comatose, that says, now that I'm looking back on everything that we had, you're the reason I spent most of my 20s just wanting to die. And, I mean, that's just one lyric that people have heard and been like, you know, I'll show my friends and my family my art because I'm excited about it, right? I'm confident in what it is, and dude, I make a song, and I don't really make songs that I don't love anymore. It's like everything that's coming out is just like I said, it's supposed to be made. The songs are writing themselves, but like, oh, dude, I'll show these songs to like some people that are close to me, and they'll be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, dude, I'm great, man. I just made a banger. Like, you don't like this? They're like, no, it's good. We're just like, your lyrics, man. And I'm like, hey, like, dude, I've had family members come up to me at holiday events like, dude, I listened to this song. Do you mind if I talk to you about it? And I'm like, yeah, please. They're like, yeah, so like when you said this, like, what did you mean? And yeah, man, like it provides it's like a new way to connect with people, I think.
There's a comfort in the mellow.
Yeah. I would also call it like a catharsis. You know, like an emotional state of being that is, you know, that word has a negative context in most situations, I think. You know, an emotional state of being where you're just like allowing yourself to feel something for however long that is. Having confidence to take a step forward out of that state, but really being able to just sit there and process raw emotions.
Yep. Just being present with it. Just almost like this is the feeling and it's right there and you're like, there you are feeling like I'm not running away or gonna stimulate myself to distract from it. Just being present with that. It is cathartic. Yeah. People who've experienced a lot of pain know what we're talking about.
Absolutely. And that's who I make music for, man. I make music for people that were like me, that, you know, for whatever reason felt hopeless at a point, whether they're still there or not. That's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to that group of people, you know, the emo kids, the people that are willing to sit there with their emotions and able to, you know, take like an almost third party look at it and be able to say like, this is what I'm feeling right now. I'm acknowledging it.
Name it.
It sucks, but there's like a growth in the catharsis almost. I've sat with my emotions long enough and, you know, certain feelings that I've had before I was like inspired by this project and even the kind of topics that I'm trying to tackle right now. I've sat with them long enough to where it's like, okay, you felt it. Cool. Now there's growth.
Growth comes from pain.
Yeah. Like you sat there, you acknowledged it, it happened, it's here, but it doesn't have to stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like I said, so like this record, Death of Matthews, it's supposed to be, it's exploring spiritual death. So first track, cinematic landscape, you're off in the wasteland. Second track, omens and crows. The hook is broken. Just want to feel whole, but you're broken. And just exploring that, taking note of every struggle, every loss, and every scar. Going into search for peace. I was searching for some peace, looking for the answers, hoping I could find the key or find the cure for the cancer. But every day it seems I'm closer to the edge. And I'm petrified I can't look. Going into coffins. I get dark thoughts like this all too often. How we all end up in hearses and coffins. I'm so lost, I don't know what lost is. And I constantly question who God is. There's a prayer in there, not going to spoil it. That goes into penance. Bound by my pride and confined by my chains, catharsis. I face my shadow in this shallow place, apostate, no concept of faith or belief in a God. Forgiveness and folly where my body lay. It's like where I fell, there's forgiveness, but there's also my mistake. Sometimes you have to go back. Sometimes you have to go back in your head and find out where the roadblock is that's keeping you from moving forward.
Yeah.
So forgiveness and folly where my body lay, consumed by confusion and pain masquerades as some sort of solace, but it's a cathartic facade. What we're talking about.
Oh yeah, it's all what we're talking about.
It's a
very
facade.
on brand.
It's a
Yeah,
facade.
yeah.
It's like you can sit there in the pain, you can acknowledge it, but at the end of the day, it's a cathartic facade. Like you have to go back to where you fell, you have to go back to where you made the mistake, you have to go back to your folly, and that's where you'll find forgiveness.
Yeah.
Or forgiveness for yourself if you don't believe in God, right? What I would give for one drop of your blood, one crumb of your bread, because my vessel's done. Going back into my faith. Almost done. That goes into sunburn. I was sunburned. I flew too close to the light. No stone unturned. No sign of clouds, and it's dry. So unconcerned of what great love paid the price. So forget what it's like. Forget what it's like to be baptized in the blood of the Lamb. So again, man, like it's not hopeful. It's not sunshine and rainbows. Jesus loves me. It's searching hard and digging deep. Can you accept love? Can you not? Can you forgive yourself? I want to talk to people that, don't experience faith too, right? And then the last song, the end is called Better Condemned. I know you love me, but I hate myself. That's a sin I don't think I can shelve. You gave me shelter and I made a cell. You made my voice, and by my pride I fell over again. I feel better condemned. So it's and at that end of the song, I feel better condemned. That's a crazy thing to say, man. It's a crazy thing to say, like, for someone like myself that has experienced joy at this point in my life, and when I can, dude, I struggled with faith for a long time. I put down my faith for 3 years. Didn't pray, didn't talk to God for 3 years, dude. Curse God to his face many, many times. And, like, the gentleness that I experienced through that time of, like, being shown love, being shown grace, being shown what, like, joy can look like, and feeling better off condemned. I actually don't want your love. it actually makes me so uncomfortable because I've not been able to forgive myself. I feel better off back in the wasteland, and I'm going to go back to the wasteland, and I'm going to keep on searching. I'm going to start over almost. And then get back to that last song. It's a process, man. It's a process.
There's that honesty again.
Yeah.
You're not repeating any words that somebody would have told you or that you learned when you were a young person.
No.
You're being honest in that pain of doubt.
Yeah. And it's funny because I had a friend of mine listen to the song, Christian man, someone I love, someone who loves me. And they're like, man, like, it's a really good song. I'm like, thanks, man. They're like, it's really dark. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And they're like, well, like, what would you think about, like, a dialogue at the end? Like, what would you think about, like, like, interjecting some hope there? I'm like, nah. Like, it's not what it is. It's not for, like... But the ironic thing is people will find hope in it. Because when you listen to the record and when you listen to it over and over again, like I have, and it's meant to be put on repeat. It's a 16-minute record, EP. And it's, again, that process of going through the wasteland, searching, being broken, having a glimmer of hope, turning away from, the things that were holding you back, but still feeling like you can't.
Yeah.
And then back to the wasteland you go. But thankfully, there is a point where you don't feel better condemned. And I don't feel better condemned right now at this point in my life, right? I feel better, not to get too woo-woo or religious, but in the arms of the Father. And it's an ironic thing to say. It's an ironic, because when you put out a song, like you're immortalizing a state of being in a particular point in time. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I will write the message of hope. It will come. Like, I will, make that record, right? But it's not this one.
I think that's a great place to start wrapping this up. Jared, is there anything you'd like to promote for yourself? Would you like to tell people to wait, something's coming out, or check it out? Yeah.
Yeah. So the Death of Matthews EP is coming out hopefully this spring. Be on the lookout. I am WhoIsMatthews on Instagram. I also have a side project dropping pretty soon called Churches and Trenches with a buddy of mine named 𝐏𝐢𝐜. And it's just, he is a rapper's rapper from North Philly. I'm an emo rocker from the suburbs. And it's just us doing what we both do, being confident in what we both do, coming together and just making something completely different. So that EP will be dropping hopefully in May. Death of Matthews dropping probably in June. We'll see. Tentative release, but...
Right on.
Yeah.
Matthews, thank you so much for joining us today, giving us so much insight on what it's like to be a musician in Philly, the authenticity you've offered us with, your own core values and the stories you share.
Chris, thank you for giving me the space to just come on and talk about my core values. Honestly, like, before you asked me, it was not even a question that I thought of. And honestly, like, after talking about it with you for a while, like, I feel so much more confident in, like, who I am as an artist and, like, how I'm going to build that in the future. So I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Love that.